Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host, and joined by my blue collar badass, Matt. How's it going, man?
It's going fantastic, Dylan. It's been a minute or two since we recorded a live show like this, so it's good to be back on the mics. things are busier than ever, but it's fun. Kids are back to school, and now we got sports again, plus everything going on with the business. It's controlled chaos at its finest right now. How about yourself?
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's one of those things that we make sure that we give you guys an episode every week, but we don't always record an episode every week. So some of these are batch, some of these are ad hoc, some of these just what we can do to get it out as we're both running companies, traveling a ton, doing a lot of things, but always trying to bring you guys the best guests, best content around construction and what we can do to really help improve the whole industry. So today's going to be a little bit different of a topic, and I'll kind of dive right into it, but a little different of a topic than we've had in the past, but I think it's a booming industry that definitely deserves our attention and one to be covered. So our guest today is Alex Jarbo, who is a short-term rental developer, manager and coach, and is currently developing $10 million worth of real estate this year and plans on building 650 cabins in the next 3 years, which we'll for sure dive into how you're going to do that. And really everything about short-term rentals. He's written for Bigger Pockets on their short-term rental content, and also has his own YouTube channel. So we'll dive into all that kind of fun stuff. And without further ado, Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, man.
All right. I guess I'll let Matt, you start.
I'm sorry, I don't normally just jump in, but I was reading your bio, man, and I got to ask, this is probably the most irrelevant topic we'll talk about all day, but you are a Guinness World Record holder. I want to know.
Yeah, I love putting that in the bio. It's actually right there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it was one thing that so I think this is in my bio as well, but I was a magician for like 15. I've done like street magic my whole life, when I was a kid, through high school, middle school, through the military, and what I do now as well. It's like a good networking thing, and I was like, I want like when I was a kid, I was used to like go through that Guinness World Record book thing, and I was like, I want something that's tied to magic, whether it be like cards or coins. And that it was just, I just went on their website and found I was like, what's the easiest thing I could do to just get one of those certificates, one of those frames? And that, it took like 6 months of waiting, but yeah, they sent me one. Like, I think I did that in 2017 or 18. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Definitely a unique thing to hang on your wall, and a good talking point for sure.
Yeah, it's like I have my degrees right here, but that's more, in my opinion, I like that. That's more important.
Nice.
So what is the record?
And you can break it if you want. It's the furthest distance to roll a coin. And I did it indoors, and I found like the biggest, flattest piece of concrete, which was at my local Gold's Gym. And I like went to I didn't even go to the owner of the gym. I just went to the person who was closing that day. I was like, hey, do you mind if I just do this real quick, set up a couple cameras? And you don't need someone there for that. Like with like the person in the suit and everything, you can just record it yourself. And so I had like a couple like quote unquote witnesses, just to like view. It was just a couple of my friends, and like as they were closing, I just whipped a coin as hard as I could, like the span of the gym, and we just measured it. But yeah, super simple.
Nice.
Stupid, but
no, man, it's cool. When we're done here, I'm gonna go start rolling coins and see if I can.
For sure, man. $50. You can use that. I was like, what's the heaviest coin you can use? It was $50, and just got one of those and just threw it.
Nice.
After breaking the record, how did you, or maybe this is before or really in the middle of, how did you get into short-term real estate? What kind of tickled your fancy in doing short-term rentals?
Yeah, man. So I served 4.5 years in the Marine Corps, and sort of towards the end of my enlistment, probably a year before my enlistment ended, I just I decided I didn't want to re-enlist. I wanted to go to school. And I started also reading up a lot on just different asset classes, stock market, real estate in general. And then once I was sort of fixated on real estate, just really started to dive deep on like the different things that you can do with real estate. So it was flipping houses. I read up a lot, multifamily stuff. But for some reason I like started following someone on YouTube that had like a flipping mentorship, and I joined that. Forgot how much it was to join, but I had relatively close access to him where I could email him and everything. And I just by going back and forth, I realized a lot of his long-term wealth was in short-term rentals. So he did the flipping thing, but what he put all of his money into was short-term rentals. So I was like, I flipped like 1 or 2 houses. I didn't really like the whole like put 8 months to a year into the whole process of finding a property, closing on it, flipping it, selling it again, or selling it, flipping it. That whole process took for me anywhere between 6 to 12 months. I'm sure you could do it faster, but just in the market that we were in and technically still are in, that's how long it took. And I was like, well, if I'm putting 12 months into something, 6 months into something, I want to be able to hold on to it long term. So I just jumped immediately into short-term rentals, and he sort of helped me decide on a market after I left the military, because I was stationed in DC. And I came here, got my real estate license where I live in Asheville, North Carolina. And I started helping just people like buy and sell short-term rentals. And after doing that for about 6 months, I was like, okay, the reason I moved here was to do this on my own. And I didn't want to manage other people's properties, because like I still have people to this day, 6 years later, asking me to manage their properties. And I don't manage any properties that I'm not an owner in. But at that time, I didn't have any partners. I had some money saved up from the military, but not too much. So I just started looking for properties that I could purchase myself. And I realized that very quickly, even back in 2016, 16-ish, that there were like no properties on the market that were either in my price range, or if they were in my price range, they wouldn't do well on the short-term rental sites. They might have done well as like long-term rentals for like someone to live in them, like as a long-term tenant. But as like I always felt like there back then, and it's even more truer now, I felt like there had to be some sort of like uniqueness factor to the short-term rental, especially if I'm going to put like a mortgage on the property. So I couldn't find a property in my price range, so I decided to find a GC who was a close friend of mine, and we still work together to this day. And I just decided to build my first investment. Like my first real estate investment was a ground-up development project, and then 1 turned into 2, 2 turned into 4. Brought on a couple partners for different projects, and like this year we're developing, you said 10 million, like 24 cabins total. Yeah.
That's pretty ballsy, man, to jump in, head first and your first project come up out of the ground like that. That takes some guts. So I applaud you for that. First of all, thank you for your service.
Thanks, brother.
Always appreciate that. But looking through your bio and looking through your website, tell me about your product type, because it's pretty unique from what I've seen. We're, selfishly, when Dillon approached me about having you on the show, I was like jumping for joy, because my wife and I are very, very close to getting into the short-term rental market. We've been looking and researching and reading for way too long without making the leap. So I was really thrilled to have somebody on who's an expert in this field. Looking through your website, though, again, your product type is not one maybe I've seen it, maybe I haven't paid attention to it. It's definitely something different. So why don't you kind of walk us through what your specialty is?
Yeah, so you briefly touched on it. The uniqueness factor is I realized the best use of my time right now, instead of doing like these onesie and twosie cabins at the same time, I don't like developing one property at the time. I did that with my first one just because I just didn't have the money for it. But now that I'm comfortable raising capital and I have a network, I don't like doing like 2 projects at a time. Like the best use of my time, what I realized, there was no difference between me going out looking at 1 acre or me looking at 20 acres. To me, it was the same amount of time. For my engineer, for my architect, honestly, it was the same amount of time for them to put into it. Maybe they did a couple extra floor plans, but when I'm waiting on people for bids and everything, it really wasn't that big of a difference between 1 and say 10 at the same time. So I decided to start developing these anywhere between 6 to 12 cabin communities. And you can do 1 and 2 at a time. But when you look at my website, there's a theme with all the properties. So whether they be log cabins, whether it be A-frames, we're doing cottage communities, barn type of like modern contemporary communities as well. That's one that we're working on right now. There's some sort of theme attached to them. And what I realized with managing short-term rentals and coaching, I mean, the network I'm a part of that I coach for is like, we have 2,000 students in the network. And what I realized with talking to them about like short-term rentals, because they do like more like the rental arbitrage model where they sublease properties. But after talking with some students who have purchased and developed their own properties, what I've realized is that the uniqueness of the properties is a draw on top of whatever city you're investing in. So usually during the slow season, the property becomes the attraction, which is really cool. It's like a lot of markets are seasonal, especially for like I've looked into developing in Michigan, like a lake town or something, or like on the beach. But the issue is like those markets are they're gonna be seasonal. So usually the uniqueness or the themed properties do better during the slow season, where they become, I say, Instagrammable properties, and then during the high season the property can be a draw itself, but it's usually the city that's the draw. But I still, to this day, still like to develop permanent foundation stick-built houses, because there's a built-in exit just in case if the rental actually doesn't work out, you can sell it. So, yep.
That makes a lot of sense, man. And definitely some unique cottages and cabins on your website. Some pretty cool looking stuff.
And it's one of those things where I feel like if I did need to sell it or put a long-term tenant in it, maybe the long-term numbers don't work, but if I needed to sell it, I feel like a couple, or maybe a couple without kids, or maybe like one kid, they would still want to live in something like that. So that's why I said like the permanent foundation stick built thing. Someone can get a mortgage on the properties I'm developing if I needed to sell them off that way. So I like to think of multiple exits in place just in case it doesn't work out. Say if the city randomly decides to switch the short-term rental laws one day. Good example of it actually is in Detroit. The Detroit mayor, I forgot who he was at the time. It might be the same mayor, but the Detroit mayor was on an Airbnb ad, like telling hosts like, hey, come to our city, purchase properties and turn them into short-term rentals. And then like 3 months later, the city like just said like no more short-term rentals. So it's like that's what I mean about like having a built-in exit is really, really important.
Have you seen anything like that in the areas that you're developing, communities or
cities
that just cut it out?
Yeah. So the city of Asheville actually doesn't allow for short-term rentals. We develop all of our properties in the county. So I'm a licensed real estate agent here. So I pull up my city and my county map, and then I pull up the line that separates the city. And I was like, okay, I'm just literally going to purchase properties on the edge of like, I'm going to purchase land or because we purchase properties as well that have some land attached to them. And like, so there's like built-in cash flow while we're developing. So we're not just going out of pocket for everything. We do that as well on top of the complete ground up development. But yeah, I just pull up the map. I always tell people like, if your city's very strict on it, just to go over to the city or the county over. More than likely they're going to be less strict. And a lot of times, like if you're looking at like Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, some cities in my county, there are short-term rental laws in place to protect short-term rentals. So it honestly depends on what market you decide to go into. What I like to tell students, if you're in a strict like metro market, is to think about, and Michigan's known for this because like where I grew up, like think about a place where people in your city like to vacation for a weekend. So like it's going to be northern Michigan. Like people travel 2-3 hours north all the time on the weekend to take trips,
Sure.
Golfing trips, hunting trips, beach, whatever. So I always tell like, if you don't think it's going to work in your market, think of where people like to vacation in your city for a weekend.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
When you get to like thinking about the short-term rentals, and I guess part of this, everybody's heard, I'm sure by now, of Airbnb and VRBO, and especially now that they're advertising on like mainstream TV and booking and all that kind of stuff through them. And I think most people have probably done at least one experience with either of them now. In the short-term rental market, are those platforms good for people to list on, or kind of what's your take on on Airbnb and VRBO or some of the other listing sites?
Yeah, so I have nothing against them. I mean, that's how I started. I started with listing all my properties on Airbnb. I look at when I talk to students, I like to, especially now. It used to be 5-6 years ago where you can literally throw any property on Airbnb and it was going to do well. Recently, Airbnb did a complete redesign. It happened this summer with their website to sort of reward unique properties. But I look at VRBO, Airbnb, Booking.com, any platform. Some markets have their own specific ones, like if you're in Florida or Michigan, whatever, they have their own websites. I like to think of those websites. They're called online travel agencies, the OTAs. I like to look at the OTAs as like the marketing arm of your business, where it's like they should be looked at as like places where you're marketing your property, where you're getting eyeballs. That shouldn't be the only place. Now, again, I do recommend starting that in that route, just listing on Airbnb and VRBO just to start getting bookings in. But there are ways you should be looking at it as like a business where you're generating your own leads. A really cool tool that we actually like to use is a company called Stayfi makes it. It's a little disc that plugs on the back of your router, and it creates a landing page for your Wi-Fi that's specific to your property or to your company. And that way we capture all the guests' emails through that. They have to sign in through the Wi-Fi before they have access. Like when you go like to an airport or a Starbucks, you have to sign into the Wi-Fi. It's the same thing, and it's super cheap to do. But we'll get a guest from Airbnb, VRBO. So like one of our properties sleeps 14 people. So like instead of just getting that one person who books his email address, we get everyone's email address. And that way we then remarket to them and through our own direct booking site. I always encourage people to look at it as a business because it's very easy, and it's happened to me before. It's very easy for a guest to lie about something, or something happens that's out of your control that like Airbnb, and again, it's happened to me before where Airbnb will like blacklist your property for like a week or two. So I don't like the fact that that's happened to me before is the reason why I've sort of stepped away from Airbnb and VRBO and sort of looked at it as like, okay, how do I control my business? Because if your business is just, hey, I just list on Airbnb, what if Airbnb goes away one day? Your business is done. So that's my take on that.
I think that's straightforward. I mean, a lot of people do rely on platforms of whatever flavor you want to call it, for, these days it's Instagram, Facebook, 20 years ago it was Google. Before that, you had, it was really hard to get
direct mail marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot harder to get blacklisted by the post office. You could always go to another jurisdiction, to mail your stuff.
Right. That's a very good point.
Yeah, so like you had more resiliency built into it in like mailings versus, the platforms that we have today. Sure, you could get blacklisted by like a magazine agency or something like that and doing advertisements for your business, but nothing has ever been this cheap, where it's, I don't know what it is back in the day, but it's 15 grand to get in most magazines these days, direct mails, $2 a piece. You start talking at scale, like it's
right. It's almost like it almost has gone like full circle where it's like that is what short-term rentals used to be. Short-term rentals have been around forever. It was just you had to call someone or book directly through a website or whatever to get. But just like how you said with like Instagram, YouTube, like it's the same type of idea, the same type of thinking. It's like if you have any type of business, any type of product, any type of service you're trying to sell, you're trying to take that person off of YouTube, you're trying to take that person off Facebook, off of Instagram, and put them into your network, put them into your list, where the list that you control compared to YouTube or Instagram. Instead of YouTube or Instagram, it's Airbnb and VRBO.
It's interesting because you're not the first person I've heard say that. I follow a couple different short-term rental focused podcasts, and it sounds like Airbnb, especially, and not to shit all over them, but it sounds like that's pretty common that either the algorithm will freak out or they'll just straight blacklist because of, like you said.
Yeah, I mean the algorithm, I'll tell you right now, the algorithm for Airbnb is completely, in my opinion, completely messed up right now. Like if you go up on their website right now and just look up your city, it will throw you in very different directions. And they're fixing it right now. And one of the masterminds I'm a part of, like the one of the people that's a part of that mastermind is like a consultant to Airbnb, and they're like, yeah, they're trying to figure it out right now. So like stuff like that, you have no control over that. So it's like you have $1 million asset. We're developing 10 million this year. It's like they have complete control of my business if that was the only avenue if that was the only portal I was putting my stuff on. So
Yeah. That's good to diversify regardless, right? I mean, that's the nature of owning a business. You got to be.
Yeah, and I don't know what short-term rental podcasts you listen to, but I've been on most of them, and there's a really cool website called Boostly. They're out of the UK. His name is Mark Simpson, that specifically builds these websites, like these direct booking websites that are optimized for direct bookings. And they're done for relatively cheap compared to like the grand scheme of your business. But I've been, the last year has just been, all my focus has been on direct bookings and building that list. And especially if you have multiple properties, you can take that email list and like essentially cross market properties. Hey, if you like this log cabin, we have these other properties. If you're in different markets, you can even push them to different markets if you wanted to.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Now with that, for what you've developed so far, do you focus just in the Asheville market, or have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm in Buncombe County. I want to push out to Western North Carolina because the GC that I'm working with is the biggest GC in this area. They're comfortable going out a little further. But I mean, I like staying within 2 hours of my market, because it's not that I'm a micromanager in any ways. It's just like I like putting eyes on a property, say like every couple months, even if once a month, if it's too like further out. I mean, GCs can send you photos, send you videos all day, but nothing really beats boots on the ground seeing something's messed up, because it's happened before. Like people,
Sure.
like videos sent, and it's like stuff to the left that wasn't in frame is completely screwed up. So, yeah.
So do you self-manage all of your properties, or?
Yeah, so we have a pretty good system, and that's one of the I'm not really taking on investment capital right now, but when I was raising capital for my projects, I mean that's one of the benefits of like for the partnership is like that's not like a 20%, 15% management fee, 25% management fee isn't taken off the top. That's like what the value I was bringing to. There's a lot of really good tools and systems that systematize, automate all of it. We use virtual assistants so we use automated messaging for most of our stuff. That takes about 70% of the messaging away, 70-80%. The 20 to 30% that's left is taken care of by a VA. And then say if there's like the occasional 2 or 3% that literally needs someone on a phone call or like boots on the ground, then my cleaning company takes care of that. Because you don't really need a boots on the ground manager when your cleaning company is going through the property 2 or 3 times a week, is what I say. Now, if you get to scale, maybe 50 or 60 properties, you need someone like what we say in the military, inspect what you expect. Like you need someone to be inspecting the cleaning company. That's a different story. But yeah, I mean, I would say like if you're like 10 properties under, you don't really need any type of boots on the ground manager. We've got 20 properties we've gotten away with not hiring a property manager. Yeah, because if an issue happens, like these virtual assistants we use are really good English. Like they can answer phone calls whenever, and then they can call my cleaning company if anything happens as well.
Gotcha. So you mentioned your cleaning companies are rolling out there a couple times a week. Are most of your rentals that short, like weekend deals, or do you stretch out, or you just send your cleaning crews in the
Yeah, so I have a 2-night minimum, 1-night minimum, or 1-night bookings bring parties. I mean, I've learned that. I've written Bigger Pockets articles on it. I've pushed people away from 1-night bookings, especially if your property can sleep more people. Honestly, the bigger like we have a $1 million log cabin that can sleep 14 people, beautiful horse pasture, horses, everything. And I would say the bigger the property, the more minimum nights you should have, like 3-night, 4-night, whatever. So it's all like dependent on the property. Again, I never do 1 night. It's all over the place, to be completely honest. We'll have like two of our properties have like week plus guests in there right now, and then one of our properties has just like a normal 2-night. So yeah. Okay. But yeah, it's like at least once a week my cleaning company is going up there, unless if like a bear gets in the trash or something.
Yeah,
so
Asheville.
Yeah, bears everywhere, man. I mean, I get like my wife and I just moved into a new house, and it's like we installed a Ring doorbell, and it's like our neighbors just texting us about bears and stuff. I'm like, It's like, stop leaving your trash out. Like,
What's the worst or the weirdest thing you've ever experienced as far as how a renter has left one of your properties?
yeah. So this segues, or this ties into the story about Airbnb blacklisting the property. I had a lady come in, and it was for us, leaf season, October, November is our busiest season. Summer's still busy, but like, I mean, my 800 square foot A-frame, which was our first project, that one can command like $400 or $500 a night, just during leaf season. So I had a couple come through, just 2 people. The property can sleep 6 people, but 2 people. It was like a $2,000 booking, so like 4 nights, 4 nights, whatever it was. And what I realized is when I like spiked the prices during the high season, I always get 1 guest a year, maybe 2 guests a year that are very troublesome. That maybe it was like on the border of them being able to afford it and not afford that trip. A lot of questions prior to them checking in, where it's like, like, okay, this guest's going to be an issue, or some sort of issue is just going to be a little bit more high maintenance. So I get like I guess like a text message or a message at like 11 p.m. and they're like, I'm pregnant and the house smells like dog. Like I just threw up and blah, blah, blah. Like my husband and I are like leaving, and like we already got a refund from Airbnb. We already called Airbnb, and essentially them complaining about like the place being left a complete mess. And my cleaning company has missed maybe 1 cleaning because of like scheduling conflicts with our system over the course of like 4 years, 5 years. So like, I didn't really believe that story off the bat. But she said there was dog hair everywhere. The place was left a mess. So I called my cleaning lady. They have like an emergency line and blah, 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 at like 11 p.m. I was like, hey, like, can you they're already out. We don't have to deal with this tonight, but I was like, can you go over there and just check on the property? Just see what's up. And we have cameras as well. Like we're allowed to have, and my county and Airbnb, you're allowed to have a camera that points towards the driveway just for safety reasons. So I checked the camera after what my cleaning lady told me the next day. And because I just went right back to sleep, so I'm like, okay, it's already done, right? Like I was like, she's pissed, they left, there's no point trying to fight it. So my cleaning lady gets out there, their crew gets out there, and they're like, yeah, so she brought a dog with her, and they checked in at 3:30. Check-in's at 3. So they stayed a day, and then probably got their pictures, posted it on Instagram, whatever awesome property that we're in. And then she was like, there was dog hair all over the comforter and everything. Like we change out all of our comforters with everything. And then like they had cooked a meal, like they'd cooked dinner. And then they complained to Airbnb. So that's what, like, Airbnb blacklisted that property for about a week and took away my superhost status. That's probably the craziest story that's happened about like just someone blatantly lying. We change our codes out in between each guest as well. Like we have a system that automatically generates codes and loads it. So yeah, that's probably the craziest story that's happened. And that's what led me to start thinking about direct bookings and like controlling my property. Because I was like just crazy people. But we did get our money back from that guest though, because I sent the video over to Airbnb. I was like, this guest blatantly lied. But it was disappointing because it was like shoot first, ask questions later. Like they completely got rid of, like I was still able to host my guests that were booked, like my future guests, but I couldn't, like it was off the website for a week.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, that is a horror story. I've hosted maybe 600-700 guests, thousands of nights, probably, yeah, thousands of nights at this point, but that's a drop in the bucket compared to all the good stories we've had.
Sure. And
Yeah.
it sounds like it forced you to pivot a little bit and revamp your system to a better way anyway. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like, okay, like that, this is, you like I said earlier, you can have millions of dollars of real estate assets, but it's like, if you can't control the channel, then it's useless. And that's true with any business that shouldn't be getting all their leads from one specific like source, because that's something could happen to that source. But
Yeah.
Mark Simpson, who's the owner of the direct booking site, said, don't build your land up. I mean, you guys are construction people, don't build your land or don't build your property on someone else's land. Like it's that simple.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, so with that, like to to just talk about some good news after that is, obviously you had thousands of people. Like, what is I mean, obviously that was a bad, instance and people just straight up lying. But on the other side of that, like, what has been your experience, on the whole with, running short-term rentals?
Yeah, I mean, if you get your systems in place, Ben, you have a good cleaning company. I don't man it. I don't do the cleaning in house. There's a cleaning company that has like 100 something properties in my market that takes care of everything. No, it's been phenomenal. I mean, I wouldn't be talking and sitting with you guys talking about the business if it wasn't. I would have just imagine if I came on your guys' podcast just to bash short-term rentals. But no, it's like no, it's been good. I mean, it's all about property selection in terms of like just the uniqueness factor. Because if you go on to Airbnb site right now, I'm not gonna like bash an Airbnb for the last 20 minutes. Airbnb is where a bulk of my bookings still come from. I mean, again, we're pivoting from it, but if you go on their site, everything is optimized towards unique properties now. People like to have an experience like with the property now, and it's only going to get more high maintenance as time progresses because more cool properties are hitting the market. But yeah, no, I mean, like our first, just because I was like talking about numbers, like our first project, I probably put 20, I mean, I borrowed some of the money, but like I put 20, probably 25, 30 grand into our first project, and that thing nets about 45,000 a year. So it's like my ROI was well over 100% on, granted that was prior to COVID, prior to every cost increase that exists right now. But I mean, instead of it being 115% ROI, maybe it's 50 or 60%, which is still ridiculous. Like you're getting your initial investment back in the first year and a half, 2 years, if you're doing it yourself. It probably closer to 4 or 5 years if you have a partner. But they're getting their initial investment back in 4 and 5 years. That doesn't include principal pay down on the loans that we get. That doesn't include appreciation. That doesn't include the initial equity that they still have tied in the deal. It's pretty powerful stuff. I mean, the equity multiples for the investors. Again, I'm not taking on investors right now, but we hold for 10 years, but the equity multiple was like 3-4 times their money by the time they actually step out of the deal.
So how has the last 2-3 years been with all the COVID, all the bullshit? What did that do to your business model?
I started raising capital from more expensive markets. And that wasn't done on purpose. It was that, I mean, our price per square foot went from 180 to whatever, 250, 260, or whatever the number is. I just started raising I started talking about price per square foot, and people who understand what that means, people from like California, New Orleans, New York, investors from their funds from there started coming towards me. I mean, one of the funds I do deal with is out of Michigan, where I'm essentially a deal finder for them. But that's one way, is just getting in front of investors that were a little bit more comfortable with higher price per square foot prior to COVID anyways. And then another thing is just, I don't know what's happening with UPS and FedEx right now, but ordering flooring, anything, sinks, windows just take forever. So we order those up front. But just ordering anything that we can that's in stock, even if it's not the exact color that we want. That's been just in the last 3 or 4 months. Like, I mean, try to get stuff simple stuff like sinks. We try to get sinks overnighted or sinks ordered, and they'll just randomly get lost or held up for 2-3 weeks. So it's like, dealing with investors that just are a little bit more comfortable with the prior price per square foot and just ordering stuff that's in stock. That's as simple as you can get. And then when it comes to people, like, because I mean, it's just hard to find good work right now. I've just switched over to using just one of the biggest GCs in this area. I talked to him originally 2 years ago. I just didn't have the deal flow for him 2 years ago compared to now, or 3 years ago. So now I'm working with a GC where people want to work for the specific GC because it's just a larger GC, a more established name. But yeah, that's how I've dealt with that price increases and all that fun stuff. Yeah, labor pool small here. Labor pool was small here even before COVID. Just because I don't know, it just always has been smaller city.
Sure.
In the development pieces of it, we touched on what kind of made you go that way for doing uniqueness and being, worth your time. But what else really spurred in doing these, 6 to 12, and kind of how'd you land on that magic of a number in
Yeah,
doing a development?
it's a good question. So it's all based off of, and I talk about this in the course that I put together, but it's all based off of like my county's zoning laws. And like, to anyone who's looking to do this themselves, grab a copy of your city's zoning laws and just read it, and like get to the part where it talks about fractional or short-term rentals or nightly rentals or whatever your county classifies as rentals under 30 days. The reason I stuck to 6 to 12 is because I can purchase, say, like we just did this in February, purchase a 15-acre parcel. You could subdivide it 3 times without having to submit a plat for subdivision review. And then from there, you can put a primary and then an accessory dwelling unit, which is just a mini version of the property that we built. So if you look at my website, every single property is like, there's a big version of it and then there's a small version of it. And that way you can subdivide 3 times, and they don't care about accessory dwelling units. You can do 3 primary residence without having to do subdivision anything. And then you can technically, if you wanted to get to the 10, or I guess 9, you can do 2 accessory dwelling units. They don't have to be smaller necessarily either. They can be the same size as the property. But that was one of the reasons why I stick to the 6 to 12. If you're in open use land zoning, you can build, I forgot what the maximum number is, but you can build over 10 units without having to get a hotel permit, which getting a hotel permit is actually not a bad thing, because you can, going back to short-term rental laws, what we talked about earlier, we've played around with the idea of getting a hotel permit because it circumvents short-term rental laws. So when I say that I want to get to 650 cabins, that also includes boutique hotels that I want to develop here in Asheville and then also in Detroit. Because if you get a hotel permit, you don't need to adhere to short-term rental laws, which is nutty, because hotels can list on Airbnb. There's like a section for hotels now. So hotels and short-term rentals are starting to merge into one thing, just nightly stays. So that's big. If someone has the bandwidth and the capital and the investors and can guarantee the loan, you can circumvent all your short-term rental laws by just getting a hotel permit and just managing it as a short-term rental. I just stayed in a boutique hotel last night here in the city that I was actually looking to purchase. And it was 14 suites. Like, imagine like 14 condos, full kitchens, full bathrooms, full everything. It was a condo practically, but it was a condo conversion. And all they did was, I mean, it's called a boutique hotel, but everything's listed on Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, and they generate their own leads. So depending on how many units you get to, those words can be interchangeably used: short-term rentals, Airbnbs, VRBOs, hotels. So sorry, I just went off on a rant on that, but that was one thing I hadn't talked about, is just the hotel piece. You circumvent all the laws just with that.
Oh, that's an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah, because if you go on Airbnb's website, you can book boutique, like you can choose boutique hotels. So it's like hotels, like we stayed in a boutique hotel in Chicago because my wife and I, whenever we visit family in Michigan, we like to take the road trip to Chicago. We stayed in a boutique hotel that had 300 rooms. Like, that's not a boutique hotel, but like that's what they were calling it. So, and it was on Airbnb. Like, I had booked it through Airbnb.
So this is one thing that I haven't looked into on the hotel side of it, but like, at what scale and what room count does it make sense to start looking down the path of doing, getting your hotel license or permit?
Yeah, it's all going to be county and city specific, because they're going to have that number. Like for us, it's 10. Anything over 10 units or 10 rentals that are adjacent to each other, so connected to each other, is considered a hotel. Anything more than 10, so 11 plus. Yeah. But like from an economical standpoint, I mean, you would just have to run your numbers, how fancy you want to get with it too. Like the boutique hotel I stayed at, everything was premium, like premium hardwood, repurposed floors, like premium, like marble countertops, everything. Just outside of the appliances, even the decorations were very high end. So it's from an economical, like just from a number standpoint, it's just depending on how expensive or boring, but how basic you want to be. Yeah, because like, I mean, if you get like down to like just basic, like you're essentially building a hotel at that point if there's nothing unique about it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and with every hotel, so I mean, I've worked on hotel projects, and they all have their design standards, that you're going into a W or a Marriott or a Motel 6
Right.
without ever having to see a logo.
And all of that's cookie cutter for the most part. Like what you'll see with the boutique hostel stuff is like you're going in there a lot of times for like the one I just stayed at was recently, or it was a hostel that was converted into condos and then the boutique hotel. So like there isn't really a cookie cutter method to do anything because every single one of those rooms is different. So that's where you can play around with the design and I guess, I mean, to make a boutique hotel unique, it's just all in the furnishings and the design. Like just this theme that you go with. So the theme for that one was like Paris, France inspired stuff. Like all the furniture was from overseas.
Alex, you mentioned you've got a course. You wanna throw out a quick plug for that and let us know what it's all about?
Yeah, so it's launching September 15th for everyone who's listening. I don't know when this is actually launching, this podcast episode, but yeah, I put together the course. I'm saying I put together the course that I wish I had when I started. If I would have had this course, it's like 120 videos, everything from short-term rental development. I mean, if I don't know, a lot of your audience might be like GCs and builders already, so like there's already a really, that's the hardest piece to teach, is how to choose the right GC and how to handle the development process. So I would say a bulk of your listeners already passed that piece. It's just like talking about what's unique in your area and blah, blah, blah. And the course dives into management after the property's built, financing, capital raising, everything in between. It's like 120 videos. It's on my website, alexjarbo.com. Again, we're launching it September 15th, but if I would have had that course, I would have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, like compared to like in development, guys, like I'm sure, I mean, you guys know, like you don't know what you don't know, especially going into a new market, going into a new asset class of real estate. You literally don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I'll definitely be checking that out, man. It sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, like some of the subdivision pieces and to, dive through your local book basically of codes and what the laws are, especially for, a lot of us out here, we don't mind necessarily going through the entitlement process, doing plats, like it's old hat for us. And so long as you have investors that are on the timetable for it, because that's really the only like key piece here is that the timing that it takes to do it, on 15 acres.
Yeah, and especially on the capital raising side, like the investors understand that, like, I mean, a lot of times we over raise just for holding costs. I mean, that's a huge thing. So it's getting better. I mean, going through this market correction, it is getting better. We are getting, like, I'm having lenders call me instead of the other way around. I'm having we have tradesmen like calling us instead of the other way around. So it's like things are getting better. It's just it's still in this wonky period where you can't like completely guarantee timelines, because I mean you're at the mercy of, one, your subs, but two, you're definitely at the mercy of your permitting office, which can take anywhere between 6 to whenever time they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just getting material. That's, I think, the hardest piece. But if
Yeah.
subs are starting to call, that tells me that work is letting up to where they're not so slammed, where they just can't handle the influx.
I think they're just like playing catch up from the low interest rates that we just went through. And it's like now people can't purchase. So it's like, I mean, we're snagging some phenomenal deals right now with the market correction, like just people who are just maybe just got caught up in like when their refinance needed to be. And I mean, we're purchasing some really cool like micro resort type communities where there's like a wedding venue plus like 6 or 7 units with some land that we can build more. But those are all over the place right now. Like my agent just brought me 3 this week alone, and we couldn't even find one for a year, like 2 years ago. So yeah.
Sounds like you're also in a pretty darn unique market there.
A lot of weddings.
Area.
Yeah. But you'll be surprised, man, if you just type in like wedding planners in my area, like 30 things will pop up. And you're like, I didn't even know people got married in my city. Like, I mean, my wife and I got married back in Sterling Heights, Michigan, but I mean,
Okay.
that's because that's where family's at.
Yeah, I was in Nashville 2019 for like 30th birthday party. And it's, amazing the people that are traveling for things like that now. I think more and more people end up doing. They go
Yeah.
trip instead
When
of.
it comes to the market selection piece, you honestly can't go wrong with like investing in a market that's like close to a national forest or a national park. Like you have a built-in population that is driving to that area, and they're more comfortable driving. So like Uber and Lyft is not going to be bigger in those markets. But you can go 30 minutes out without them getting annoyed. Like if your land is 30 minutes away from like an entrance or something, because they're already driving. So
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm like a hour to the north gate of Yosemite, and then like an hour and a half to the valley. Like most people stay
Yeah.
here versus even the town that's closer to Yosemite.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So that that fits. But Alex, anything that you see that you'd like to maybe improve or correct or help out since you're both in the construction and short-term side of things, but to improve within the construction industry?
Construction industry, I'm more like I would improve in the financing side of it. I mean, things are getting better. Like all like there's short-term rental financing, because like I'm in the short-term rental development. And the hardest thing that I see people coming to my industry is like just obtaining financing on these, but it's starting to become more normal. A lot of like boutique hotel, RV park type of lenders, like recreational type of lenders and brokers are starting to lend on stuff like this. So that's one thing that I would change, is just like I think COVID like really put short-term rentals like on a pedestal, because like people did better outside of the initial 3, 4, 5 months lockdown. People did do really well during COVID, and I think it accelerated like the need for short-term rentals and put in like spotlighted it. So I would just change like the financing piece of it. I don't know how, but maybe just put more funds, more money behind the financing piece of it. But
Yeah, it's the underwriting side of it, because
yeah.
that's
More people made money during short-term rentals than long-term rentals, because you got squatters. Like it's that simple. You can't short-term rentals don't really fall under any type of squatting laws because it's under 30 days. So you could just get a sheriff out there just to kick out the people. Like for the most part. I would say almost like North Carolina is a little bit more landlord friendly, but I mean there are still like some pretty aggressive squatter laws that people could take advantage of. But on the short-term rental side, I've never had it happen to me, but my cleaning company that manages some properties have had that happen to them. But it's like you just get a sheriff out there and then get him out the same day.
it's good to know. With that, anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap it up here, Alex?
No, that was essentially anything. Again, if anyone wants to check out the course, alexjarbo.com, just a little tab. You guys can watch the little masterclass video, and then at the end, just pitch the course at the end. I mean, I'm selling it for relatively cheap, but it's again, there's like a group coaching piece tied to it and everything. But yeah, it's everything: templates, checklists. I mean, there's 120 videos, so it's like it's literally everything that you need.
Nice. Is that the best place for people to find you, or you want them to
Yeah,
circle through your channel?
alexjarbo.com. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn if they want. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active in the Bigger Pockets forums as well, just because I write for them. So I would say those are the 3 biggest places to reach out to me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming on, man. This is fun.
I appreciate you having me on.
Any last words, Matt?
I'm good, man. I gotta go do some research, and then I gotta go start rolling coins.
Just got to find just flat concrete.
You got
Let's
it.
go to your gym, biggest gym you have in your area, and just ask them to do it.
Well, Alex, first, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for, serving the Marines and putting in your service. We do appreciate that here.
I appreciate you guys.
Do our listeners. And then one, thanks for coming on and sharing, a ton of great information on short-term rentals. I think this is it's a little unique for us, but your development piece and, bringing down some zoning laws and things like that are kind of unique and right in line with our audience. And then for those of you that are looking to, obviously you guys build things and design things. So this isn't too much of a stretch to go and do short-term rentals in your area. And, again, if you want to go through more city council meetings and sit through some zoning sessions, you can, get your hotel permit or do your lot splits, all those types of fun things. But again, Alex, thank you so much for coming on. We do appreciate it. And guys, go check out his course, his listings, get some inspiration on what you can do to design your next unique listing. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Construction Corner. Until next time.